Hey, what's going on, y'all? All right. So, you ever like working on something and you're like, I just get one more thing done. Let me just get one more thing done. And then time just goes by super quick and you have to hop on and do a presentation. Yeah, that was just me just now. But I got it done. So that's good. So I don't have to go back and do it. Cool. So, and I'm going to keep this short anyway. So I always say that and it never ends up being short. All right. So, share my screen. So this is the break. Oh, by the way, stretch it out. Oh, man. Hold on, stretch. Oh, that's a good one. Okay. Now, so on Twitter, I came across this tweet. So where is my mouse? Where'd it go? Here we go. Tired. All right. Now, share my screen. I don't think I'm gonna need an audio, but I'm gonna share the audio just in case. So, anybody knows me knows I'm into like web components, and one of the ways to create web components is through lit. And so I actually came across this tweet. I'm going to add the link to the video so that you can check it out for yourself. But so lit is a way of being able to create web components. It kind of because there's a lot of like boilerplate stuff to do, like a vanilla JavaScript web component, and so lit helps by abstracting some of that stuff away and adding some other goodness to it. If you're ever curious to figure out all the different ways of creating web components, there's webcomponents.dev. Shouts to these folks. They're it's like an online IDE thing where you're able to create web components, and it's pretty cool. So I'm gonna add this link as well. So you can check it out. But just really quickly, so for all web components, code your component isolation. You can push code, publish code, and deploy to the website. Now, what's cool is that it shows you all the different ways to create web components. So they have apparently it's like 58. I've never app run. I've never heard of these. Catalyst. Oh, these are new to me. A lot of wow. Okay. Hyper HTML. I remember Hyper HTML from back in the day. That was like the thing I first created web components with. That wasn't like vanilla JavaScript. So you can see that they have lit as well. So there's all sorts of ways to create web components. And what's cool is you can kind of just try them out on webcomponents.dev and figure out one that you like and continue building web components with whatever, because you can use web components in whatever framework or without a framework. It's amazing. So that's why I like it. And I like that there's a variety of different ways to be able to create. And Stencil is another one I've done. LWC, I think that's from like, is it the people that do the trailheads? What is it? Is it not Shopify? Is it Shopify? I don't know. No, I don't remember. But yeah, cool. And then you can see wrapped into custom elements, so like Angular elements. So if you like React to web component stuff, pretty cool. All right, and then you use it with Svelte. Cool. So yeah, all sorts of different ways. Haunted is another one I've heard of. Cool. And then I guess CSS and JavaScript. I guess you could do. I guess there's web components for Tailwind. Cool. But you can see a lot of stuff with lit HTML, lit elements, and that all goes to, so the link from that tweet, which I thought was pretty cool, because I always like these little like tidbits of knowledge that kind of come up on Twitter, and I can kind of dive in more with what's happening. So from the good folks at Lit, it said break a component lit project down into smaller units with component composition. And this is stuff I always think about while I'm creating things. And so it's cool to see like it in documentation form. So you can always go back to review it. And so you can check out, so they have a thread. So it's like you have your component here, and then within your component, you have other subcomponents. And it kind of talks about how to handle all of that. And so links to this in the documentation, this section here. So let me put this also in the list of links. Here we go. I keep losing my mouse. I don't know. I have like 3 screens happening. And so add this link, save it. All right. So it kind of goes over a brief overview. So component composition, the most common way to handle complexity and factor lit code into separate units is component composition. So basically taking something that's kind of like complex, like if you're creating, and it's funny, I was actually doing this for the past couple of weeks, creating web components that are like standalone pieces of an other application, but sometimes that standalone unit has other things inside of it. And so this is kind of like a way of breaking down that complexity. You know what I mean? So, and so that is the process of building a large complex component out of smaller, simpler components. Imagine you've been tasked with implementing a screen of UI. So kind of like this thing here, where you click this and these pop up. And so you could probably identify the areas which involve some complexity to implement. Chances are those would be components. Those could be components. Yes, so exactly. Like we're building an application, like a demo application really quickly. And I was like, all right, so that we don't have like merge conflicts and that we're not bumping into each other's code, let's break this down into different components. And then so you work on some components, I work on some components, and they're all separated. You know what I mean? And so that way we could come together, have a shell application, and just slot in the application. And it worked well. Like we got it done. It's pretty amazing. Like the speed at the time, like we had to complete it, we did pretty well, I think. So yeah. So by isolating the complexity into specific components, you make the job much simpler, and you can then compose these components together to create the overall design. Literally what I just said, what we did. And so, yeah, so that's dope. And so we took the application. So we had like the design and what things need to be done. And then, so instead of working on, the application together and then like getting each other way, like merge conflicts, I'm pulling stuff, sending stuff, things aren't being up. So we're like, all right, we're just going to, all right, this is going to be a component. This is going to be a component. And we kind of broke down the design, and it's like, all right, you're going to do this. And we all kind of just worked together. And it was awesome. And so basically what that is saying is what we did, which was super cool. All right. So for the fairly simple screenshot above, and so they go through all this stuff. So they said like there's a top bar, a menu bar, a drawer with menu items for navigating the current selection, the main content area. So yeah, so a lot of times, a lot of applications follow that same thing. They're like, there's a menu, there's a part that shows the stuff that's, when you select a menu, there's a top bar where things are, things like that. So they're saying like, all right, so here's the top bar, here's the icon for the menu to, slide in and out, and then the slot for the title, fuzzy, so right there. So this is that. So this is the top bar. So now what makes a good component? Cool, it has its own state, it has its own template, it is used it's used in more than one place, either in this component or in multiple components. So like, for example, if you wanted to make like these things like their own components, like the selection in the menu, they could be like their own components, and like they could fire off their own events, but we'll get to that. All right, cool. Has a well-defined API, cool. So as far as like what goes in, what goes out kind of stuff. And so reusable controls like buttons, checkboxes, and input fields can make great components. It's funny because we had that in our application we created. But more complex UI pieces like drawers and carousels are also great candidates for componentization. That's a new word for me. All right, so some things to kind of think about. Passing data up and down the tree. So a lot of times, and I guess if you're into frameworks as well, they'll say this as also, but like properties down, events up. So the way you're passing in information, so if you have your component, you want to pass in information, you pass it through properties. But then if the component is doing something like an action and the outer application users know about it, you send that up through events that the application can listen for. All right. So the application is doing something, it passes data through properties into your component. And then if your component wants to pass information back out to the outer application, then you do that through events that the thing can listen for. All right. So properties down, events up. So you could read more about this stuff, but that's pretty much a summary. And then a few implications in this model, a component should be the source of truth for the subcomponents. So the component itself should have like, this is where we're at. And any subcomponents follow that. You know what I mean? So yeah. And then if a component changes a property on itself, it should then fire to notify the components higher above it. So like, just like we're saying, the outer application. Cool. So yeah, so like you would pass your properties. So if you have an outer application that my menu is in, you would pass through the properties through there. For example, let's say like a property would be maybe the names on these sub menus, you know, because for like internationalization, another long word. Let's say you wanted to be able to just generate whatever language and then pass it in. So you'd be able to pass in like an array of names. And so you pass that into here, whatever language, and then it would put it here for this sub items kind of thing. Cool. And then if anything ever changes on here or on my menu, like the selection or whatever, to let the outer application know, like, oh, this thing was selected, I need you to show this thing. You would send an event of what was selected so that the outer application can know, oh, this thing changed. I know what I need to do with this change. Let's make this happen, kind of thing. So yeah, so they're saying like either a standard event like a click or something, or more specific to my item component. So like if somebody clicks my item 3, you want to let the application know, hey, my item 3 has been selected. Yeah, so things like selected item change, cool. And passing data across the tree, properties down and events up is a good rule to start with. But what if you need to exchange data between two components that don't have a direct descendant relationship? So not like, you know, how this is a part of that. Let's say you have my menu and then something else. How do you pass data in between those things? So one solution to the problem is to use the mediator pattern. In the mediator pattern, peer components don't communicate with each other directly, instead are mediated by a third party. So like React, they have like the context API and Redux. Angular has its own thing. I think Vue has like Vue Store, and I think Vuex, I think is the one. And like Svelte has its own stores, which I appreciate and I like. I use that a lot. And so they kind of talk about that. So I guess that's called the mediator pattern. Did not know that was a thing. So that's why I like reading these things, because a lot of stuff I just make up and figure it out on my own. But it's good to place actual words and terms with things so that you can say to other people like, oh yeah, the mediator pattern is where you like for a store or what have you. So you can let you send all the information to this one place. Everybody's listening to that one place and they know what to do with it. So yeah, so by adding a mediator, you can pass data across the tree using the familiar events up, properties down principle. And so they go through an example. And what I like about this is that you can like have TypeScript and JavaScript, which is cool. So you can see how it is. So whatever your flavor of JavaScript, you can have that there, vanilla or type. And they have like a little thing here. So enter new nickname, lifelong dev. Yeah, cool. So all right, what else? Oh, and then there's this other thing about the light DOM children. So you could pass in, so like here is your top bar web component, right? And with that, you can pass in other things that are like visible to the outer application because it's there. Like this is like your index.html. And so you can see that stuff there. But like top bar may have stuff inside of it that you wouldn't be able to see if you looked at the source code because it's in the shadow DOM, right? But these are in the light DOM, so you can see them. They're in the light, not in the shadow. And yeah, and then a lot of times they'll have like slots, and so they'll tell the web component, I need you to put this in the slot title, and yeah, in the title slot, and name it this thing. And the same thing for like the menu icon stuff. Cool. And then that's pretty much it. So yeah, cool stuff. I always like to kind of read, especially if I'm using the tool, like little like tips, to kind of see like, oh, you could do this thing. If you ever thought about this kind of stuff. So I'm always appreciative of stuff like that. So yeah, shouts to them. Cool stuff. And yeah, so I put links to everything. So when the video is up, you'll be able to check them out. All right. So again, cool stuff. Web components are awesome. Stop sharing my screen. I'm gonna get you all back to work. Let me set the time. Now, if no one wants to do any show and tell, what we'll do is we'll take a look at an artist's website, listen to music, maybe watch some videos. Maybe you'll find a new artist that you like, and that's the hope. All right. So set this. I did the highlight video. Cool. Start screen share. I need this one here. Cool. I'm gonna send you all off with some traveling music. This is Anthony Cruz, aka A Butta. The track again is called Thank You. Thank y'all for hanging out. I wish you much productivity, and see you 15 minutes after the hour. All right. See y'all later. Thanks again, y'all. Bye. If this loads. Here we go. All right. Thanks.
I want to say thank you for holding on when a brother was down and out. Now I feel so strong, and I want to say thank you for being there when a brother had nowhere to turn to. You were there, and I feel like yeah. And everybody says yeah. We spread love like yeah. I want to say thank you for holding on when a brother was down and out. Now I feel so strong, and I want to say thank you for being there when a brother had nowhere to turn to.